Welcome into the Landon Tangwall Show, brought to you by our friends over at Hoover. Thank you to Will Hoover and the entire Hoover crew for bringing you today's video. And we are back with our top 10 series, where we're going to reveal a team about 1 week at a time. And every time we reveal a new team, we're spending a whole week diving into the film, deep analytics, and everything you need to know about that 2026 roster and coaching staff. And today, number 9, the Texas A&M Aggies. Now, we are going to get into the biggest strength, the biggest weakness, some X factors, and some under-the-radar X factors, not the obvious ones. And then we're going to take a look at the 2026 schedule and see what Texas A&M has on the horizon. And then we're going to have a couple film breakdowns coming at you guys. We're going to have Marcel Reed tomorrow for you guys. The good, the bad, and the ugly, everything you need to know. I spent my entire Saturday, this past Saturday, watching every single game of his from the 2025 season. A lot to love, definitely things to work on too. And then on Wednesday, we're going to dive into the starting offensive line. I'm going to give my prediction for this starting 5 on this offensive line. Got some young guys that have been at A&M, and you got a bunch of different transfers. I've watched the tape of every single one of them. So we're going to dive into that and show you what you need to know about this brand new Texas A&M offensive line. All right. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button to stay up to date so you don't miss any content and don't miss any of those film breakdowns. Let's dive into this thing. So, time after time, Texas A&M, they have always put their money where their mouth is. And most recently, they lock up Mike Elko for 6 years, not at the end of the season, but still mid-season when you're having a fantastic year. And they make it clear that he's going to get whatever he needs. Now, Texas A&M obviously wanted to go deeper in the playoffs, and they felt like they had a talented roster. You got a good offensive line, a very, very good defense, but you fall a little bit short. But I still look at this past season as a success for Texas A&M because that Mike Elko got you to a spot that you have wanted to be for a long time. You have put a lot of money into different rosters, into different coaches, and it has not worked out. But Mike Elko showed those improvements and shows that he knows how to build a real squad. You can win with him. He's going to take you to the playoffs, and that is a real thing for Texas A&M moving forward. And it's very rational now at this point for Mike Elko to come out and say, hey, I think I need to just get a little bit more help. And the perfect place to do that would have been the gap that Colin Klein left at offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. But Mike Elko went the route of promoting from within. And, we're going to talk a little bit more about Joey Lynch, the new quarterback coach, and Holloman Wiggins, the new offensive coordinator. But I just think it's interesting that a university that has always generally been hyper aggressive with their football team, of always wanting to try to keep momentum rolling and let's do whatever we need to do and fund them with whatever they need to get it done and get wins. And now under Mike Elko, it feels a little bit more like it's about making the right choices rather than the flashy ones and just throwing it money at different situations and hoping that fixes it. And as we know in life, throwing money at problems never changes it. You just need the right guy. And you found that guy in Mike Elko. And so maybe that's all Texas A&M just needed, right? Maybe they just needed a guy that could bring stability to this program and a guy that you can trust and a guy that knows how to build a program. And he's already done that. So yes, the coaching hires were not, higher. They weren't flashy hires. Maybe a little bit underwhelming to some fans. You look where you're at and it's like, hey, let's go out and spend some big bucks. We can do it. We just went to the playoffs. We've proven that we can do this. And Colin Klein leaves. Let's go get an offensive guru to come in, and you just get the promotion from within. So, listen, let's trust in Elko. I've seen that from all the Texas A&M fans. They say, hey, maybe I don't love this, but I'm going to trust in Mike Elko. I think that's a good way to go about it. He has the full reins. Let's see what he can do with it. But that brings me to my biggest strength for Texas A&M in 2026. That is Mike Elko's brain. This guy is one of the best defensive minds. I'm not even going to say in college football. He's one of the best defensive minds in all of football. I mean, this guy, not only was this third down defense this past year, it wasn't just great. They were historically great. You look at these numbers. In 2025, they were the number 1 third down defense in college football. Only allowed an average of 3.2 third down conversions per game. That's number 1 in the FBS last year, and that's the best from any defense on third down since 2022. Now, A&M's opponent's third down conversion rate was 24.6%. Once again, that's not only number 1 in college football this past year, but that's the best number for a defense on third down in the FBS since Michigan in 2016. Yes, 2016. And just to put that all in perspective, Marcel Reed was 11 years old, watching cartoons, eating cereal, the last time a defense was this good on third down. So that's what you're getting out of Mike Elko. Now, here's the even crazier part about that Texas A&M defense. Historically great, but with not too many elite players necessarily, because you look, they only had 2 all SEC players on that defense. And that's first team, second team, third team. Any of those, only 2 guys did they have that were first team, second team, third team SEC. So what that tells me is, yeah, there were some good players and there's some underrated guys. And there's a lot of guys that are even coming into this defense, and we're going to talk about in a second, that I think are going to be big time playmakers. But this defense is what it is. They were historically great because of Mike Elko. So we're going to dive into the film room real quick, go through about 3 or 4 plays and show you what makes these third down pressures, these third down coverages so special in the Mike Elko defense. All right, let's start out with this third down pressure against Miami in the playoffs. We're going to let it run once. You're going to see a lot of looping, a lot of penetrating, and we get a free rusher home for a strip sack on Carson Beck. Beautiful job. Let's start out first. Let's talk about Miami's protection. So the down lineman, the offensive lineman, you're going left tackle here, left guard here. Center is sliding to 27, so we're IDing 27. Right guard is coming down on this 2I, and then tackle's locked on this defensive end. So those are what the down linemen have. Now let's talk about your guys in the backfield. You have your tight end on this linebacker right here. You have your running back accounting for this linebacker safety in the box. Now, when you start to look at this, you say, okay, so everybody is taken care of. Let's see what Elko does. He is going to run a 3-man stunt. So the first thing that you get is you get your linebacker blitzing, and he's the penetrator. He is going first. So tries to penetrate, and he's just trying to get vertical. Then you're going to get your defensive tackle looping over top, and then your other linebacker looping the opposite way. So it's really just meant to mess with this protection. We're just moving a ton of guys in a bunch of different directions, and it starts to be a problem because right here, you'd think, hey, my tight end should be able to clean up 11, but that's not his responsibility. His responsibility is to get over top and try to match 21 coming over top. So that's why that you get this free, because the guard got picked off and there was no one there to pick up. So it's really all about Elko messing with the protection rules of the offensive line. He knows, hey, my goal is to just kind of penetrate, knock off this guard a little bit, and we're trying to get 11 home. That is the goal, to get him home, and he does get home. Great sack right here. All right, let's talk this blitz pressure on third down against Arch Manning in Texas, and Dalton Brooks comes free, bringing up some big pressure on Arch Manning right there. Let's talk about it. So what you're going to get here, let's talk pass protection again of the offensive linemen's assignments. So you have there, and then the guard is going to squeeze down, thinking that, hey, this linebacker is going to come, so that's my responsibility, and the tackle is going to squeeze on this 4I. Running back is out here on this end. So, hey, we're in a pretty good place right here. Arch Manning says, hey, if he comes, I understand I'm hot off of him. But what you're going to get now is you're going to get this safety rotation where he is going to fly back, and then your other safety is going to fly down onto the ball, and you have no one to block him, because now we're in a situation where my right tackle has to squeeze, and the running back either has to take 1 or take 2. But now Arch Manning doesn't even see this coming free. Running back goes with the outside man, and you have Dalton Brooks flying in unblocked for a free pressure, almost a sack right there. So, I mean, this is what's so hard, is just messing with the pass protection, getting them to basically get into a 4-man slide to the left, and then we're dropping out. We're dropping out right here, and we're bringing it all from the other side. That is what this Elko defense does. All right, one more time against Arch Manning in Texas, and this blitz comes home from the right side, and this really should have been a touchdown, but because Arch Manning gets hit, it is incomplete. So let's talk about this. So what you're going to get at the snap is you're going to get basically a 5-for-5. So you have a 4-man slide. We're sliding, and then you have the running back in protection. So we are going these 5 for these 5. These 5 blockers for these 5 defenders, and you kind of just have to sort that out. Now, let's talk about this. You get your defensive end to drop on this side. Now, let's talk about just rules of protection. So the last man, you basically have a 4-man slide plus the running back. The last man in the slide is the left guard. The rules are, if you're the last man in the slide, if anything crosses your face back the other way, you have to stick on that. Once again, this is something that Mike Elko knows. He understands their blocking schemes. So he tells his linebacker, hey, be patient right here. Wait for this defensive tackle to cross the guard's face because the guard has to stay on this. He can't get off, so he's got to stay on it. And now, hey, as soon as he starts to cross, that's when you shoot into this A gap, and it's just too late. The goal would be this tackle would tell his guard, hey, I got him, get off on this blitzing linebacker, but it's too late. It takes too long, and these are the little intricacies of these third down blitzes that make it so hard. He's scheming up the battle he wants. Does he want the blitz to come home on the left side? Yeah, he very well might. But this was the thing they were attacking. They were attacking, hey, crossface, I know he's going to stick, and then wait and just shoot for the linebacker. Beautiful job, and he's coming free from 5 yards of depth, disrupting the pass. All right, now let's talk about this pressure against Florida and DJ Lagway, and you get a free blitzer off the edge that just creates havoc and causes big problems for DJ Lagway. So let's talk about the protection again. So here's what you're getting. Right tackle out here. Right guard right here. Center, man on, guard right on 21, and then your tackles on this defensive end. So what do we have here? So we have 7 up for the defense, and you only really have 6 blockers. This tight end is going to get out. So the running back's responsibility is he's in sort protection. He is looking first. I'm looking at the linebacker in front of me, and if he doesn't come, then I'm looking to go help out on the other side. So now the idea for Elko is, hey, we're going to put this poor little running back that's a little guy, not a great pass protector, in a bind and make him choose. So let's watch this as it develops. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to drop. So you're going to scoot this defensive end inside. And like I said, this tackle is locked on this defensive end. He has to match him and come down when he starts to blitz inside. So this running back is a little late, and he sees, hey, I got to get all the way over here to get this blitzing safety coming off of the edge, and he's just a little too slow to really see this, and we're coming free off the edge. Lagway feels that, and that forces him, hey, I got to step up because this is coming off the right edge, so has to step up and steps up into a ton of pressure where there's a mess, and we are getting a strip sack once again. So like I said, there's just so much chaos. That is the theme of these Elko blitz pressures that, hey, yeah, we're only going to bring 5 against your 5, but we're doing it in a chaotic way that gives us good matchups and allows our safety that wants to come off the edge with speed to threaten the quarterback, create chaos, get home, and we're getting a strip sack. All right, good luck to any offense facing that defense on third down. Good luck to any offensive line, any pass protection. All I can say is good luck. All right, that brings me to my biggest weakness for this team. And I'm going to be honest, there's not a whole lot. And so I went with the new offensive coordinator and the new quarterback coach. And first off, let me say, before I say anything else, Holman Wiggins, one of the best wide receiver coaches in the game, elite recruiter. This guy actually, back in 2017, when he was at Virginia Tech, he gave me my first offer ever. I was a true freshman. I was in high school, and I remember him shaking my hand. I remember blacking out and just hearing, you have an offer from Virginia Tech, son. And that was it. And so I always kept a great relationship with him, and he kept climbing up the ranks. And it's been really cool because this is a talented cat. Now, not a question of how great of a wide receiver coach he is. We know that. We know he's a great recruiter, but what can you do as a play caller if you are Wiggins? And now, once again, Mike Elko deserves our trust. So him making this move tells me that he believes that Wiggins can get this done, but you still do have to question, why not go out and get a proven play caller that is some type of offensive-minded guru as your offensive coordinator? Why not go out and get a quarterback coach that is known for really working on mechanics and being able to refine talented quarterbacks? I'm sure Elko really likes Joey Lynch. He promoted him for a reason, but doesn't necessarily have a great track record of producing really good quarterbacks at Vanderbilt or Ball State. And look, you look at Marcel Reed's tape. One of the most talented quarterbacks I have ever watched on film, just from raw athletic ability, not even athletic, but athletic ability, arm talent, like it is there. He has these moments. You see the pass against Miami in the playoffs where it goes about 70 yards in the air. Like you see these moments, but then there's the moments of really bad footwork where it's a little spazzy, a little jumpy, where he's off target, where he's throwing some bad, interceptions deep in the red zone. And you say, okay, how can we refine that? How can we get the guy that we see, maybe 50, 60%, of the time where it's, oh my gosh, that could be the best quarterback in all of college football. And then it's the flip side where it's, who the heck is that? Why does that look like Denver Broncos Tim Tebow? And so how do we get that guy? And so that's my question. Is there going to be a lot changing for Marcel Reed in 2026, or is it just going to kind of be more of the same of what he's had before? Is there not going to be a whole lot of change? Because look, like once again, we can only wait and see what Wiggins and Lynch do. These might be very good coaches. We don't know. They might have different things that they want to work on with Marcel Reed that Klein didn't feel was very important to work on him with. We just kind of have to wait and see what is the word out of spring ball and really what happens starting in week 1. Now, something that does need to be fixed from Klein's offense. And especially if you're looking at this and if you're Wiggins and you're saying, which is likely, we're going to run a similar offense, the biggest change that I need Wiggins to identify and for him to make is the red zone offense. And watching it, I had some problems. Number one, you look at Marcel Reed, his 12 interceptions on the year, 6 of those 12 came inside the opponent's 25-yard line. That's a lot of points that you are just leaving on the board and just giving to the other team. And so that's a problem. And a big part was just kind of the play calling as a whole. I see a lot of spread, 5 wide, getting cute, jet sweep motions, all this stuff. And I'm like, listen, you have a quarterback who at times definitely has questionable coverage reading skills. Sometimes it's the processing has not been there for Marcel Reed. And so why are you making him do a bunch of processing deep in the red zone where the field is shrunk? He doesn't have as much room to work with, and he's got to make quick decisions. I don't really like that. So no matter what, even if you do get Marcel Reed's processing to be better, if you are Lynch and Wiggins, I still think you kind of change a little bit of what this offense does. Put a little bit of your own little sparkle, your own little spice in this offense. Don't fully copy Klein's offense. And this is what the biggest change I would make. Let's hop in 21 personnel. That's 2 tight ends, 1 running back. And let's run the football. And here's the other thing. For the love of everything holy, can we get back to going under center? Like, Texas A&M really only went under center when it was like super short yardage. When I get inside that 15, 10-yard line, let's go under center. Let's maul guys, because that was the biggest problem. It wasn't like A&M had this crappy O-line and these running backs that weren't that good. It was like we're in 5 wide, and we got an offensive line that mauls people and running backs that can get extra yards, make people miss, and spin, juke, all of it. And it felt like there was too many times where we're sitting in 5 wide asking Marcel Reed to throw a dot over the middle when he doesn't read the field that well. And so that was really frustrating for me. So the other thing that you get, if you do run a little bit of under center, you get to a point where Marcel Reed is now able to get into play action boots. And when you have a guy that athletic, he might be one of the most just pure athletic guys in college football. I fully believe that. You're going to see that on the film breakdown because I'm doing a whole session of his film on his ability to accelerate and decelerate and his movement. He can stop on a dime. So use that. So, hey, let's get him easy passes, but let's also use his athleticism. When you do those play action boots and you're moving, you saw it sometimes with him out of the pistol, but I don't think it's as effective. And then same thing in the red zone. You get in the pistol. I don't feel like the running back can get as downhill because the quarterback's kind of in the way a little bit. I just think there's a lot of things to change, but that would be my number one thing. Let's run the ball in the red zone and let's get play action pass, play action boot, because you start to get Reed on the move in the red zone. I guarantee that equals a higher red zone success rate. I just guarantee it does. You're going to give him easy passes. You're going to give him flood concepts. And a lot of times he will be able to just tuck it and run and do what he does best. But I really do think this offense has the potential to be one of the most exciting offenses in college football. Let's see what Wiggins can do. All right, let's move on to some X factors. And, naturally, it's easy. We just talked about Marcel Reed. I'm not going to talk about Marcel Reed, Mario Crave, or Ruben Owens. I want to talk a little bit more X factors that are going to be big-time players, but just a touch more under the radar that we don't all the way know. First up, I think this guy is going to be the next feared pass rusher in the SEC, and that is Northwestern defensive end transfer Anto Saka. Now, this guy, you needed a guy to replace Cassius Howe, and you found him. Super twitched up body that's going to build up a head of steam, and he will put his helmet right under your chin strap of the offensive tackle and drive you back into the quarterback, and also has some clean reps where it is clean hips, hands, and it just all looks so fluid. I mean, this is a big body. My prediction is that Saka is going to be right up there with Dylan Stewart and a couple other guys as far as the best pass rushers in the SEC. I think he's going to cause a lot of issues. And naturally, I think some people look at his amount of sacks, and it's not this insane number. And the big reason for that, watching his tape, is I'm cursing out the Northwestern defensive coordinator because they run him on stunts where he's twisting like 50% of the time. And I get why they do that, because normally Northwestern doesn't have anything at defensive end, so they have to run stunts to try to get home on blitzes because their DNs aren't going to win one-on-one versus Big Ten tackles. But you have Saka. Like, Saka was different. I felt like there were so many times I'm like, dude, give me a one-on-one with Saka in that tackle against Purdue. He's going to cook him, but you're making him run a twist inside to where he's met by a center and a guard. You wouldn't believe how often that was happening. So I think they did him a big disservice by not giving him one-on-ones. I do not think he will have that same issue in Mike Elko's defense. Mike Elko is a man that knows how to get matchups. Saka's going to have his one-on-one opportunities against some of these tackles in the SEC. I think he's going to win a lot of them. All right, another X factor that I'm looking at is on defense, and this is Colorado safety transfer Taufik Bayard. Now, this guy is a classic fly-in-the-box, fearless, make safety, make plays type of safety. I mean, just downhill, no fear. He's going to find ways to kind of dip under blocks, get back vertical to the ball carrier. Has some good coverage reps too, but I mean, the biggest piece of his game is coming from depth, blitzing, and making tackles in and around the line of scrimmage. And that's a guy that you really need. I think, you do look at some other guys that you have on this Texas A&M roster. And you look, Dalton Brooks has been kind of that guy, but at the same time, one big thing that I think is different is Bayard. He's sitting at like 14% missed tackle rate, and he's flying in, and Brooks was more around 25% missed tackle rate, and that's every fourth tackle you're missing. So not to say, I think Brooks is still going to be a big part of this defense, and he's a fantastic player, but Bayard comes in, and he's my candidate to be kind of one of the best players on this defense. That's how I look at him. I popped on his tape from Colorado, and I was like, oh, man, okay. You got a baller here, and he's going to be able to make plays in and around the line of scrimmage, and that is what Elko's defense is meant to do. I think you're going to see him get a lot of sacks. I think Elko's going to have a great time sending Bayard off the edge, especially we talked about on those third downs. Expect a lot of blitzes out of him. So I think he's going to have a great year. And look, if I'm a safety that exceeds at flying into the blocks and just blitzing, making plays, I want to go play in a Mike Elko defense. So it couldn't be a match made in heaven any better than this one right here. Big year for Bayard. And then one X factor I'm looking at on offense that, once again, is not an obvious one, not any of the big-time playmakers. I'm looking at LSU guard transfer Cohen Eccles. Now, this is a guy going into year 3. He was a starter for LSU last year. This is going to be your tone setter on the offensive line. You want to talk about physical. You want to talk about a guy moving a man from point A to point B against his will. That is the Eccles special. And we're going to feature Eccles on this offensive line film breakdown on Wednesday because, like I said, you guys, I think he's going to be a fan favorite. You guys are going to fall in love with this cat. And A&M, really reloading on the offensive line once again. You got some young bucks that have been on the roster that I think there's some, for sure, talent there. And then you bring in a bunch of different transfers that bring in a variety of different tools all across the offensive line. So no matter what, I think it's going to be another great year of offensive line play for Texas A&M, and you absolutely will have some depth, which is you always need depth on the offensive line, especially playing in the SEC. Now, this brings me to my pivot point of this 2026 season, the date on the schedule that really decides what this season's going to look like for Texas A&M, and that is week 4 at LSU. You are down in Baton Rouge. Let's see what you can do. This is where you really answer that question. Number one, I think you know what this defense is going to look like. It's going to be elite again, but more so the offense, more so Marcel Reed. Is he going to look like the complete player in his first really big game of the year? What is Wiggins going to look like? What is that play calling going to look like? How different is this offense? Are you going to save anything from the first 3 games and just throw it out there against LSU and not put certain things on tape? There's going to be a lot of questions going into that game, and we're going to get a lot of things answered one way or another. Now, I don't think if you lose this game, there's still plenty of season left. You're still completely fine, but it is absolutely a tone setter for what this 2026 season is going to look like for the Aggies. Now, once again, we will have the film breakdown on Marcel Reed out tomorrow. And then Wednesday, we're going to do my projected starting 5 offensive linemen, give you everything you need to know, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to dive into it. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. Stay up to date. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.